Hello everyone, I am back once again with another Wi-Fi match. This time it's going to be on Sword and Shield as opposed to Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl because yeah, this was after doing a couple matches in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, I kind of just wanted to switch it up to Sword and Shield. So yeah, my opponent for this match is actually somebody named Retronyte, and there's actually a funny story about this guy actually. So when we tried getting battles, I think he was looking for a match, and I said I'll battle him, and yeah, we spent hours trying to actually get connected, but the problem was that nothing was working out. Like in Sword and Shield, when you actually enter the code and all that stuff, you usually have to wait the way you're seeing right now, and then it has to like say that a trainer has appeared or something like that. Well, that was never coming up, so yeah, I was starting to get kind of concerned. I was actually wondering if my opponent actually was actually connected on the internet, or if his switch needed to be updated in terms of firmware so that it can actually get connected online, because sometimes that is required in order to actually do stuff online. I was also wondering if the guy had me blocked or something, or if I had him blocked or something, but neither of us did. Both of us had our switches updated in terms of firmware. The game software was also updated as well, so everything was up to date. So I just figured, yeah, I don't know what's going on here. No matter what we did, nothing was coming about. So because of that, it got to a point where I started to wonder if my opponent was actually like lying to me or something. I actually don't know if that was true or not, maybe not. But yeah, at the time I was just kind of I was getting kind of impatient. So because of that, I just said, you know what, forget about it. Honestly, I'm not gonna waste my time trying to get this match to work if it's just not gonna work for one reason or another. So we just left it at that. Sometime later, however, he ended up actually DMing me, and he actually told me that now he could actually do battles, because apparently he did a match with somebody earlier. So I was just like, oh, okay. So we'll try it again this time. Hopefully things work out this time, because if not, then obviously I'm gonna just have to forget about it again, and I'm probably gonna be a bit miffed, if only because once again I was told a Sword and Shield battle after a while, not being able to find one, only to be told that we can't do anything because, again, for some reason it just didn't work. Thankfully, the match does end up working out here, and we're actually going to be able to finally get something going. However, something worth noting about this battle in particular is that, once again, kind of like with the matches in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, the tiers are not specified. So, although there are some things that we did actually make clear, like such as I think we don't get to use Baton Pass nor Dynamaxing or Gigantamaxing or anything like that. So we both agreed on that. Well, I don't know about the baton passing thing. What the bottom line with that is just that like remember when I said that I sort of followed the Smogon rules? This is basically what I mean. Or yeah, we can't use baton pass as Smogon would require. We also cannot Dynamax, another thing that Smogon would require, but tiers are not specified. So this match could very well be like an anything goes type of match or anything, or maybe OU at most, since we're not using like box art legendaries or anything like that either. So yeah, it's probably, like, for all intents and purposes, an OU match. So yeah, with all that said, here's my opponent. It's Retro. Yeah, so I'm not sure. I think I decided the rules myself, because again, I wasn't sure if this guy was even like aware of what he was doing, honestly. I mean, he might have been, but again, at the time I was like, because of how impatient I was, I just didn't want to take any chances. So I decided, you know what, I'll just select the rules. Here, I forgot what I was doing. I think I was just thinking on some other stuff. But yeah, I think I was talking with the guy actually, because yeah, I think I remember this guy actually talking like a lot. He would say all kinds of things about all kinds of things, and I was just like, yeah, that's cool and all. I didn't want to come off as rude, so because whenever somebody actually is looking for a match with me for a game that's kind of old, I can only be so grateful that even if there's something I'm not interested in hearing about, I'm at least willing to listen and try to be as courteous about it as possible. But yeah, so anyways, these are the teams. Obviously, I think this is the team I go with right here, and we're gonna get things going right here. I'm gonna select the music here because yeah, this is one of the things I like about battling in Sword and Shield compared to Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, is that unlike in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, where you only have the regular trainer battle theme playing, here you can actually change the music if you want to, which is kind of a shame, honestly. I actually did try to change the music manually, um like in one of my other switches, but unfortunately I couldn't do it because I couldn't find the looping data for the music. So because of that, obviously, like the music did swap, but the looping information was all over the place. So because of that, it never looped properly. So because of that, I'm still stuck with regular trainer battle thing for Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl matches. It is what it is, though. That's why I always play Sword and Shield as well, to kind of mix things up and give the musical vibes a bit of a different, feel, all that good stuff. But anyways, yeah, so the teams are as follows right here. I already mentioned my team here. And yeah, so my opponent's team is actually quite unique here, actually, because he actually has a lot of mons that are not very, like, I'm not very familiar with. Because remember that in Generation 8, I wasn't familiar with a lot of stuff. Since Generation 8 was a time when I was actually starting to become less interested in the game, as well as the metagame, which was something I think I followed to an extent relatively well in Gen 6 and 7. So, yeah. So a lot of this stuff, even to this day, I may not be familiar with. Because look, he has a Melmetal, which is a mon I have never seen. Well, like I've seen it, but I don't think I've ever battled it before. And if I have, then I don't know. It might have been like once in a lifetime. It's very rare, to say the least, honestly, for me to run into Melmetal. He also has 2 of the Galarian birds, and he has 1 regular Galarian bird, he has an Appleton, and he has Corsola, which is probably the only mon that I've ever used, honestly. But even that mon, I kind of forgot what its typing and its base stats were. So, yeah, no, like, a lot of what I knew about Sword and Shield just kind of became a blur to me over time as I spend more and more time not battling and following the metagame and all that stuff. So, it is what it is. So, now that the battle's beginning, these are the leads. He leads with the Zapdos, the Galarian Zapdos, and I just lead off with Tapu Koko because something worth noting about this guy's team is that this guy has no electrical immunity, so if a matchup is unideal, I just get a free Thunderbolt. So right here, as you can see, he leads off with the Zapdos. I, at the time, didn't know if this was electrical still or not, but nonetheless, I went for Thunderbolt because if it's a flying type, then it'll still take neutral damage from Thunderbolt, and it's not going to appreciate it. However, he's not going to let that happen, and he's actually going to hard switch into Melmetal. Looking at his team, I have a feeling that this might have been a mistake. Because, yeah, Melmetal's a relatively bulky mon. As you saw, it took the Thunderbolt from a Tapu Koko in electric terrain relatively well. So I kind of figured that he would want to, like, send this in safely as opposed to just hard switching it in right here. In fact, looking at his team, I think he should have actually sent in the Appleton if he was expecting an electrical move. But maybe that was his concern. Maybe he anticipated the Dazzling Gleam. But even then, I still think it was worth like taking a hit with the Dazzling Gleam on the Appleton than letting this thing take unnecessary damage. Because this thing, I know that this thing hits relatively hard. Hell, this Ice Punch did a lot of damage even though it's not a stab move. In fact, I don't know why he didn't go for like a Steel type move. That would have probably even one-shotted Tapu Koko. Or if it gets Earthquake, go for Earthquake. Anything but Ice Punch, honestly. But either way, he now sends in the Appleton after expecting another Thunderbolt, and I do go for that. However, here, I know I have Dazzling Gleam, but I wasn't sure how bulky this thing was, especially given how well it resisted the Thunderbolt in electric terrain. So because of that, I decided to go for the U-turn instead, and just get a little bit of chip damage, and maybe in the next turn, if it takes enough damage, I can maybe go for the Dazzling Gleam there. So here, what I'm going to do now is just send in Sylveon to possibly scare it away here, because it's not going to appreciate a Hyper Voice by any means, especially now that it took some damage. If it was from full HP, depending on how bulky these things are, it might have actually taken it out, but I'm not really sure. Or it might have actually survived, I meant to say. So yeah, he ends up going for the Leech Seed, which is kind of annoying. That's why I go for the Wish right here, so that way I can actually see what he wants to send in, and based on what he sends in, I could either stay with Sylveon and restore all my HP back, or switch in something else, have it take damage, and then get recovered by the Wish from Sylveon and all that stuff. He ends up switching out into the Moltres, which makes sense because a Hyper Voice would have been resisted by this Moltres here because it's a fire type. So, I here I get more Leech Seed, unfortunately. Now here, I think it's around here where I try to switch into my Lodic, because I was anticipating a fire move. Because fire is probably like the only thing this thing could hit me with. Like, it can hit me with air slashes too, probably, but it's not going to hit as hard as, like, say, a fire blast or a heat wave. So, yeah, I went into my Lodic expecting that. He ends up going for the Scorching Sands, which I think is a ground type move, but I don't remember if it was a physical or special attack. So depending on that, it might have been a bad move. I'm not really sure. So here, nonetheless, I send in my Milotic just so that I can proc the Flame Orb, so I don't have to worry about getting toxic by anything else on his team, if they have that. So yeah, because remember that again, I'm not really familiar with a lot of the movesets for a lot of these mons in Generation 8, so it may have some moves, it may not have some other moves. Here I'm going to go for the flip turn because I was actually expecting him to want to switch out into maybe Appleton or something, but he actually ends up just staying in and yeah, takes the flip turn. This gives me the opportunity to just send in Tapu Koko and just go for Thunderbolt. Milotic having that flip turn move is actually pretty neat actually because it kind of helps Milotic like be on the move despite not being able to hit as hard, because usually Milotics function as like walls, and in a game where you only have the 20-minute challenge timer to depend on for a match to finish, it's really good to keep things going, you know, so that the match can possibly end faster. So yeah, anyway, so I go for the Thunderbolt right here with this this Tapu Koko. He is gonna switch out to the Appleton now, anticipating that probably. But after a second Thunderbolt, even if it resists it incredibly well under Psychic Terrain, or not Psychic Terrain, Electric Terrain, I actually wanted to take my chances of going for the Dazzling Gleam, and yeah, and see if I can actually take it out. I was considering U-turn again, but I was thinking that's probably not going to be a good idea because he's going to just like throw out more attacks eventually, and I'm going to be taking unnecessary damage. So I decided to just risk it for the biscuit here and go for the Dazzling Gleam, hoping that it would actually take it out. And as you're going to see right here, it's actually going to take it out, which is neat. So I don't have to worry about Appleton anymore, because one of my concerns with Appleton was just that it can hit really, really hard with those grass moves, since grass hits a lot of my team relatively hard. If this is an offensive variant anyway, but I wasn't sure once again, because again, I don't know the stats for these mons. So I think this was the real challenge in this match actually, more than anything, because matchup wise, it was ideal, but like I just didn't know a lot of the types for the mons, besides the birds possibly. And yeah, I was just kind of left like wondering, okay, what type is this? Even this Corsola, which I have used in the past, but even then I kind of forgot what its typing was. I was actually wondering if it was actually Ghost and Rock or Ghost and Water. I know now that it was actually a ghost type. I know now that it's a ghost type only, but at the time I was actually wondering whether or not it was Rock or Ghost. Or rock or water, I meant to say. So here, I went for the Roost because I was actually getting withered down and I actually wanted to recover. And I was kind of under the impression that this might just be a water type mon, just to start things off. And I went for the U-turn here on the off chance that he wanted to switch out for one reason or another. But he ended up not doing so. So I ended up just going for the U-turn. And now here I am just wondering what I can send now that he decided to stay in. I think it was around here where I was wondering, is it rock type or is it water type? Like, I was left with that in my mind throughout this whole match, and it was just making it a little bit rough for me. I didn't know what to send in, so I just sent in Sylveon. He ended up going for the Will-O-Wisp, and yeah, this Will-O-Wisp is actually not that bad on Sylveon. It was definitely much better than a Toxic, because Toxic would have been worse for Sylveon, because it would be put on a timer there. So, yeah, here, I think it's right here where I decided to go for like a Hyper Voice, because, nothing on his team is going to appreciate a Hyper Voice. If he goes into the Moltres, I think we'll be fine. We don't got to worry too much about it. So, yeah, we're going to go for the Hyper Voice right here. He is going to switch it out. And he's going to go into the this thing over, the Melmetal. So this Melmetal actually is... This Melmetal actually doesn't... Like, it takes the Hyper Voice very well. But I wasn't sure personally if I was going to be able to take it out with another Hyper Voice. In retrospect, I think it would have. But, you know, nowadays, or at the time I meant to say, I actually, you know, wasn't sure. So because of that, I went for the Mystical Fire instead, just to be sure that it goes down. Like maybe that last hit with Hyper Voice was maybe a high roll or something. And if I get a low roll here, it would survive and take out my Sylveon completely. So I wanted to play it safe right here and just go for the Mystical Fire. So yeah, down goes the Melmetal, which is nice. Now we gotta wait to see what he wants to send in now. I wanna believe... Oh, no. Okay. I think here... At first I thought he was gonna send in the Moltres, but no. He actually... I think he goes into the Zapdos right here. And I was thinking, okay, yeah, Zapdoses can hit hard with Thunderbolt. If this is an electrical type. I know now that this thing is a fighting and flying type mon, but at the time I actually didn't know what type it was. I was actually even wondering if it was maybe a fire type crossed with electric, with levitate as an ability so that it's still flying or something. But apparently it's this flying and fighting type, which probably explains why this Brave Bird actually KO'd. Because remember that Zapdos is not exactly known for its physical attack. So yeah, this Brave Bird ended up taking me out completely. Because I can only assume Galarian Zapdos actually has higher attack than its regular form. That's what I assume anyway, but I'm not really sure because I actually still haven't looked up this mon yet, so it is what it is. Haven't been, like, I've been too lazy to even look it up, honestly. So it is what it is. They take out my Sylveon, though, which is good for them, but I get to now freely send in Tapu Koko once again and just go for another Thunderbolt. Now here, I think he sacks the Moltres, actually, because I don't think he wants to let the this Zapdos go down. Regardless, this is exactly what I was actually thinking to myself. Like, this is an ideal matchup. I just need to get familiar with a lot of these mons to know what their tendencies are and approach accordingly. But yeah, as you can see, he decides to let the Moltres go down. I'm guessing because he knows that this isn't going to be useful in the long run, which would make sense. He should have probably done something like this with the Melmetal instead of sending it in all willy-nilly and maybe sack the Appleton in return. I know I'm saying this a lot, but it's because I think that's like the one thing that kind of like felt a little jarring for me personally, sending in Melmetal when that mon should definitely come in safely. But yeah, so I go for another Thunderbolt right here. It actually takes it neutrally, which to me at the time, it made me think that this was a Ghost Rock type. So this thing gets to go for the Will-O-Wisp on Tapu Koko, which is not really a big deal to me since this is mostly a special attacker anyway. But this gave me an idea, and it was to actually try to get Garchomp to Earthquake this thing and just take it out that way. Because if it's a rock type, that means it'll be super effective to Earthquake. So because of that, I had to keep that in mind. Yeah, but meanwhile right here, I think I tried to go for another Thunderbolt. Either that or I just went for a U-turn because I actually was anticipating another switch. I'm not really sure. But he ends up switching out and goes into the Articuno, actually, the Galarian Articuno, which again I didn't know what type it was because I've never run into one of these, or if I have, like, I don't remember what their abilities were because again I forget a lot of things these days. So yeah, what I decided to do now is just send in Skarmory because, you know, I wanted to see if I can take an ice move if it has ice moves. I decided to set up the Stealth Rock so that every time he switches out he gets punished by it. A lot of his team doesn't appreciate the rocks anyway. In fact, I think the mons that he has left on his team are just the birds and the Corsola, which don't appreciate the rocks. So yeah, I decided to go for the rocks right here. He is gonna switch it out, the Articuno. I'm guessing he was fearing the or at least I thought at the time he was fearing maybe the Iron Head or something, because when I saw the Articuno, I wasn't sure what its typing was, but I wanted to believe that maybe it was still Ice type somehow. And the fact that he switched it out kind of made me think, oh yeah, maybe it is Ice type. But nonetheless, I decided to hard switch into Tapu Koko because I was anticipating like some other move. He does go for the Will-O-Wisp right here, so that's actually good for me. You're gonna see later around here that I think that he actually turns out to have like the Hex move, which is why he had Will-O-Wisp on this thing, is so that he can burn me and like possibly burn any physical attacker and then punish them with Hex. Oh no, it's not Hex actually. It was actually the Strength Sap he had actually. Okay, so he had Strength Sap, which is not necessarily good because yeah, this Tapu Koko is probably just gonna get withered down to death, and I think I can outdo it thanks to the fact that I have the Roost, but the problem is that the match will go to time if I play that game, and my goal was to actually take this thing out somehow. It is here where he now goes for the Hex, actually. And yeah, that does a lot of damage, and because of this, I think this is where I decided to go for the U-turn and just go into, I believe, the Garchomp. Yeah, because I was going to hard switch, but I was like, wait a minute, I have U-turn, so it's like, you know what? Let's just go for the U-turn, just to get some damage for whatever it's worth. He has the Curse Body as well, which is one of the reasons why I was switching out as well a lot on the Corsola, because he kept disabling my Thunderbolt, which was the hardest hitting move for Tapu Koko. So here, I'm going to hard switch into Milotic, and the reason why I sent in Milotic here was because I wanted to get a Toxic off. I actually was hoping that the guy didn't see the Toxic coming, because Toxic in Gen 6 and 7 was very common for Milotic. but because of the changes that Generation 8 had, I was kind of hoping he wouldn't expect it, and it seems like that is the case because he ends up staying in and takes the Toxic. Thankfully, I don't miss that, because if I missed that, that probably would have been the whole game for me, possibly. Because this thing would have probably walled out most of my team otherwise. So now here, yeah, he keeps going for Hex on me, and it makes sense because my Milotic is burned, so this Flame Orb turned out to backfire on me a little bit. Since he doesn't have a whole lot of physical mons, but rather special mons, so this Flame Orb was literally for naught. Here I try to go for Recover just to see if he wants to hard switch into one of his other mons or something. He does end up switching out, and I think he goes into the Zapdos right here. It's going to take rocks, thankfully. This is why I set them up, because he still has 2 of the birds, and they're both going to be affected by rocks. So I'm going to go for the Recover here just to see how much I get. I get a decent amount back, but the burn is going to keep me from being fully healthy. And I think here the Zapdos is going to go for a Brave Bird again, and I'm just going to go for a Scald just to get as much damage, because if he does go for Brave Bird, he'll have to take recoil damage, then the Scald damage, and if I'm lucky enough to get the burn, it'll get burned and eventually go down. So yeah, there's the Brave Bird, and I do live it, thankfully. I was actually starting to think that I might have actually gone down, but thankfully I did not. So I managed to get a Scald off, and unfortunately it does live. However, I did get the burn, which means that this thing is just going to go down by the next turn, and I don't have to worry about Zapdos ever again. So here, I think he's only left with 2 mons now. And I think the mon that he ends up sending in here is, I believe, the Articuno. I'm not really sure, though. Might have been the Articuno, though. If not the Articuno, it might have been the Corsola. Both of them can kind of take out my Milotic in a way right now. Okay, he ends up sending out the Articuno to finish off my Milotic. I wasn't sure what move he could go for. I didn't see a lot from this Articuno, so I just went for the Toxic here in case I can live whatever he goes for. He goes for the Freezing Glare, which, I don't know, it sounds like an ice move, but I'm not really sure. Given that I just took it neutrally, it might be something else. It might be like a flying move, I don't know. Given the purple theme, it might even be a psychic move, maybe. But yeah, because again, I don't remember the types for the Galarian forms, but it could be psychic, I don't know. So here, I'm gonna send in Tapu Koko now that I lost the Milotic, and now here I'm gonna go for just another Thunderbolt. It's either Thunderbolt or another U-turn, but I think I do try to go for Thunderbolt just to get as much damage on the switch in as well. So yeah, here my opponent's thinking, or actually I think I'm thinking actually. I was wondering if I should go for Thunderbolt because I was considering the U-turn. But no, he's going to actually switch out and he's going to let this thing take damage. And after the rocks, I wanted to believe that this thing was in range to go down to another Thunderbolt, especially with the poison. But I forgot that the curse body was still a thing, so I wasn't going to be able to find out. So I decided to just go for the U-turn now here because, yeah, no, I wasn't going to let Tapu Koko go down. With this and his Articuno being his last mons, I feel like this Tapu Koko is essential to stay around because otherwise I may not win this match otherwise. So it's here where I think I risk it and I think I try to send in the Garchomp, I think. Yeah, I send in Garchomp just willy-nilly, even knowing that this thing could have Will-O-Wisp. The reason why is because I do have Swords Dance on this Garchomp. I know this thing has Will-O-Wisp and Strength Sap, and that's a deadly combination for physical attackers because it completely shuts down their power a lot of the time. But I actually wanted to play like a very interesting scenario right here. Because I have the Swords Dance, I'm going to go for it right here to you know, get +1 because I actually am going to try to negate that Strength Sap that it went for earlier. And then I'm going to try to go for another Swords Dance because my opponent, as you can see right here, is going for the Will-O-Wisp so that he could burn me and then play this whole Will-O-Wisp Strength Sap shenaniganry. And yeah, because of that, I decided to go for yet another Swords Dance so that I can at least cancel out the next Strength Sap this guy goes for. And then maybe go for one more Swords Dance. And then try to like sort of balance out the burn in a way. Even though I still think it's halved after you like completely get 3 Swords Dances. So I don't know. So the power, like the point for me was actually to be powerful enough to possibly 2-shot this thing despite being burned. So yeah, this guy just kept going for Strength Sap so that he can recover. The good thing for me here is that this Corsola is on a timer, so I just can keep going for Swords Dances until he decides to finally attack me. And if he switches out, I was just hoping that the Articuno would be slower than my Garchomp, because it could still be a Scarf set for all we know. I think I only saw it, like, it go for one move every time, so I wasn't able to know if it was Scarfed or not. But what I wanted to do with this Corsola was also just damage it to the point where it could actually be finished off by Tapu Koko. And I felt like with this Toxic and my ability of having Roost on the Tapu Koko might actually help me still win that. That's why I wanted to preserve the Tapu Koko, because I wanted to make sure that that can actually, you know, still be around for when the Articuno comes in. So yeah, here I decided just I think now I decided to go for another Swords Dance. Like I go for one more Swords Dance, and then after this I think is when I try to go for the Earthquake right here. He surprises me with a rest, and I'm just like, what? This is where I got taken aback yet again, because that means that the Toxic that I got on this Milotic earlier was for naught. So because of this Swords Dance, I was immediately forced to just go for attacks now, because if this thing wakes up, it's just going to rest me and it's going to wall out the entirety of my team. Not to mention, even if that didn't happen, the timer was running very, very low, as you can see right now, with only less than 50 seconds left. So I had to just finish this thing off as soon as possible to avoid the match from going to time. So here, I go for the Dragon Claw. Thankfully, this was a 2-hit KO. But yeah, I decided to switch it up to Dragon Claw on the off chance he tries to make a savvy play of switching in the Articuno, so that the timer just finishes the match before any of his mons go down. Because there are people who are like that, and I think I'm also one of them, that like if I know I'm losing this, I might sometimes want to just play like a cheeky move just to show them that I could have still kept playing even though I probably still lost the match. So I kind of figured this fellow might want to do something like that, but he ended up not doing so. So he just let Corsola go down, and then he just let this Articuno go down too. I outspeeded, so it turns out he wasn't Scarfed after all. So yeah, we end up winning the match, which was pretty nice. It was low-key hard fought. The match, I ended up winning it 4-0, which is, it sounds like it was a wash, but in reality it wasn't, because that after seeing the rest, that Corsola had potential to just wall out the entirety of my team, maybe cripple all of my mons, and then possibly sweep with the Articuno. But the Articuno was taking rocks, so if Garchomp still outsped it, it probably wasn't going to do much anyway. So maybe it wasn't that bad, but I'm not really sure, honestly. Maybe his other mons could have done stuff too, honestly. But as it is, we ended up winning, which is nice, because, you know, we ended up just winning and, like, not losing. Because, yeah, in the last match, you know, the one for Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, I beat the guy that I played, but then he wanted a rematch, and then we lost. So here we won, and the guy didn't seem to ask for a rematch, thankfully, because, yeah, I know that match was a little bit, like, scary at first for me. So I was actually, like, just relieved that I was able to at least win something, even if it wasn't in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, which is where I would have preferred to have won a match. But I did, to be honest, but it's just that I lost afterwards, so I would have liked to have just stayed winning. But here, for starters, I ended up winning, so that's actually kind of neat. Maybe later on we can try to win more or something. But yeah, that's going to be this whole game for today in Sword and Shield. So if you watched this match, thank you for watching as always. Hope to catch you fellas for another match, whether it be in Sword and Shield or in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, if you're interested. For now, just take it easy and have yourselves a good one.